Alright, so if you hit menu, this is the touch screen for the classic Dexter-Lawson Classic Paper Drilling System. So this is where we would start with just the menu. And then you've got these different touch screen buttons you can touch. We'll start out with Operate. You've got some other ones here we'll get to in a second. But let's go back to Operate. So, spindle on, or start, spindle stop. That turns on your spindle for your drill heads to start spinning. Very simple. You've also got auto mode, setup mode, and single cycle. Let's go to setup mode. This will push in your pushers. You could hear them going in right now. And this allows you to set up your machine. Just like on the old machine, there was a setup button. This is a setup button. This pushes everything in, and now you could adjust your pushers to push the book against the backstop, and also your incoming pushers to push against your book stop. And that allows you to do that. You can still control where you put your drill heads with the little black screw that is on the actual drill head. Once you've kind of got that close, you can jog down until your drill bits barely touch your book. With the ruler, of course, you could line them up and get them pretty close to where they need to be. You'll still want to test it on a test book and tweak it just a little bit. None of that has changed. And this will take your slide all the way back up in setup mode. So we're going to turn off setup mode, and now we're able to either enable auto mode mode or go to single cycle. The machine default is double cycle. 2 books come in, 2 books go out. Single cycle allows you to push 1 book in, 1 book out. 1 book in, 1 book out. So that is basically what single cycle is. It's very useful if you're drilling 7 holes. 3 holes on this one, 4 holes on that. So it'll push in, drill 3 holes, and then push to the next station, drill 4 holes. So it gives you that flexibility and that option. If you're just doing 3-hole drilling, you'll probably always be running it in double feed mode. Once we turn on the spindle, we're basically able to enable double mode. The machine at this point is just waiting like it normally does. There's 2 fiber optic eyes right here below us. When they hit the book, or the book hits it, all of a sudden it starts pushing everything in. It goes down and it comes back up, and it waits for the next set of books. That's with your spindle on, auto mode on. You're basically ready to go. Setup mode doesn't work, single mode doesn't work right now, your slide doesn't work. All of that's basically for setting up or doing other things. So we are going to disable auto mode, so now nothing will happen. Turn off your machine. You could also set your speed points right here. We'll go back on and turn on the spindle so you could hear it. But with your spindle, you could crank things up, or you can crank them down. So this sets your spindle RPM. Your slide is your feed. That's the amount of time it goes for your drill heads to come down and come back up. At 100%, you're probably at about 18 strokes a minute. At about 50%, you might be, I don't know, at 12 strokes a minute. Basically, that is just adjusting the amount of time it takes to drill down and drill up. This usually doesn't have to be adjusted too much unless you're drilling a very difficult to drill book and you want to slow that down. This works very similar to the older machines where there was a handle on the top of the machine, and that would allow you to change the speed of the slide. You've got your infeed belt, which is a green belt, and that allows you to either make that the book come in faster or slower. You probably don't want to be running that really fast, or your books will come just flying in too quickly. However, your outfeed can go as quickly as you want. That's just getting your books out. That's your set speed points. You've also got your help diagnostic page. This basically tells you under help, why is my machine not running in auto mode? And it tells you right now because your spindle is not running. If any of these are red, that's going to hinder you from running in auto mode. You have an alarm page if something happens and you're like, what's going on? It should stop and tell you on this page what's going on. You also have your diagnostic page. This is a little bit more difficult to read, but this tells you what is red, which means it's not engaged, and what is green, which is currently engaged. So, for example, your reed switches, there's 5 of them on your shuttle. They cannot all be lit at the same time. Right now, the shuttle is fully retracted, which is where it needs to be. If the machine starts running, this would turn on when the shuttle passes over reed switch 2. It'll light up at number 3, 4, and 5. So if we were running this, you would see it go down and then back up, down and back up. So that gives you an idea. If that's not green, hey, there's something going on. For example, with the shuttle. This is really good for diagnosing, and sometimes if you're talking with one of us on the phone, we may ask you to read something from this panel and give us a little bit more information. The rest of these are just system outputs. These are all off our PLC. This tells you your slide, motor, how many volts it's pulling, how many amps, the frequency, and if we go back to diagnostic, you could also get your spindle drive. So you have 2 options here under diagnostic, slide drive and spindle drive, and this really doesn't mean too much. It's just the color palette that the programmer has to use for coloring the screen. So that is how this works in a nutshell. Pretty much this has taken over for the front of the machine that used to have all the buttons. However, that being said, the rest of the machine still runs, and I'll turn it over that way just a little bit. The rest of the machine still runs like an old machine. This handle right here cranks up the whole slide for setting your drill depth. If we look inside, you still adjust the drill heads with those bolts to move them left or right. This is your micro adjusting, just like on the old heads. This hasn't changed. All the drill heads, the advantage of this machine is all your old drill heads on your old machine will also work on this machine. So they're interchangeable. In fact, on your machine, we built them with the new HFD style, what we call roller bearing on the bottom with the interchangeable insert. So over time, your housings will not wear out. We just changed the insert. We've been slowly changing all your drill heads over to this new system as time has progressed. This, of course, is your silicone spray. You have micro adjusting. What this allows you to do is maybe this head is not getting as much silicone as this head is because they're a little bit closer to the center. So this allows you to tune this one down and tune this one up. That's when you get into the nitty-gritty of adjusting and fine-tuning your job. You still have your band of tape coming across here. You've still got your drive shaft that's connected in here that you can pull out. And so everything else is pretty much similar.